Welcome to Japan, to the 8th and final round of the 1991 FIA World Sportscar Championship on this new motorsport facility at Autopolis. It's a 2.9-mile circuit built on the island of Kyushu, the southernmost of Japan's 4 islands. Anyone who can name the other 3 will get a prize. It's set in the center of the Aso Kyushu National Park. First race was back here in March, a Formula 3000 Japanese championship event won by Akihiko Nakaya, who is moving to Brabham for 1992. 16 corners, rising and falling, and a huge crowd here for this final round of the World Sportscar Championship, which features Jaguar and Mercedes and Peugeot all fighting for those vital points. Here is the facility amongst the volcanoes on this southern island. Most beautiful circuit, all the drivers love it. They say it has the features of some of the world's best circuits built into them. Nürburgring, Spa, Silverstone, all are featured here on this incredible complex. Very up-to-date facilities, and there up on the hills on the side of the volcano looking over the track is the Bella Vista Hotel. At the moment is only 26 rooms, £480 a night. That's what it cost to stay for this race, and it was full. Symbols of affluence even here in Japan, and look at the rooms here. Probably the finest hotel in Japan. Dining room overlooking the Start Straight. The view from every room of the circuit. If Formula One ever comes here, you can imagine what these are going to cost. And Formula One is going to come here, they hope, eventually. A fantastic facility. Only problem being it's so far from anywhere. Most up-to-date facilities anywhere in the world. And being Japan, of course, you can't go anywhere without taking your shoes off. Even the press, the hard-bitten press, have to dish shoe before they can go into any of these areas. And what facilities! This is the Vision Control Center. The circuit has 28 color TV cameras, which can be moved around by these people, controlling every corner, every straight, to keep in touch with what's happening out on the track, in the pits, in the public areas. The most impressive facility. Built by the Autopolis Nippon company, opened in March, as we said, that first race. But this weekend is the first World Championship race here at Autopolis. 16 corners. As you can see, very, very misty at the moment. A lot of mist and low cloud around. And on Friday, a typhoon was threatening the circuit. Fortunately, the typhoon veered off and went to Indonesia, but it's a very close thing. But down the road at Suzuka, where the Japanese Grand Prix was held 2 weeks ago, the Formula 3000 meeting was completely washed out. Luckily, the height here, they're at 4,000 feet, meant the circuit was above the typhoon problem, and there's a lot of other things apart from motorsport to see here at Autopolis. It's very difficult access to the circuit, but once people are up here, they want to keep them entertained. This is the gambling hall. Something for everybody. You can win money, or you can pay money. At the moment, this is the closest Autopolis is getting to Formula One. Although, of course, Benetton is involved in the circuit. One of the main sponsors of the Benetton team is Autopolis, which makes it fitting that Tom Walkinshaw, who's now 50% owner of Benetton, has bought his Jaguar team here this weekend. And there's the Benetton, one of the Formula One cars there. Proudly shown off by Autopolis. You can see the Autopolis symbols all over it, which you've seen on the Grand Prix tracks all over the world this year. Of course, all this rather detracts from the racing, and the racing Hopefully will be very, very impressive this weekend. We've got 4 drivers in with a chance to the World Championship. We've got Teo Fabi of Italy leading on 74 points. Derek Warwick of Britain second on 64 points, his own teammate. And behind them, Filip Alliot and Mario Baldi, both on 59 points. But first, let's have a look at the circuit with Roland Ratzenberger, the German driver, who is driving for Team Schuppen in Porsche this year. Porsche's last ever World Championship race. The car becomes obsolete at the end of this race. And Ratzenberger takes us around this incredible circuit, this 2.904 mile circuit, 16 corners. Unfortunately, we couldn't use his Porsche to go around, but he's taking you around in a road car into a series of corners after the start straight.
Links bis zur Hornadel, die dann im zweiten Gang geht. Das ist so der langsamste
long sweeping left-handers,
wo man circa 60-70 Stundenkilometer
to a tight hairpin, second gear for most of these cars. Very similar to Manicure, this part of the circuit. Out to the hairpin, 4th gear, 5th gear, down to 4th, up to 5th, then up to 6th gear as they come out of this long sweeping left-hander. One of the fastest parts in the circuit, 290 kilometers an hour just here. I think the drivers are going to have much time to look at the scenery, but it is beautiful. Down the straight into another hairpin, a second gear corner again. None of them quite as tight as Suzuka, which has a first gear chicane. Dropping down very steeply, the circuit falls and rises 55 meters around its 2.9 mile lap. Very, very fast section here, 6th gear, braking hard into 4th, gravel tracks all around.
Zwischen 250 und
4th gear,
am Eingang sein.
4th all through this section.
Dann geht's wieder am Berg hoch.
Doubling back on itself.
Etwas langsamer.
Ratzenberger saying very, very easy to get disorientated on this circuit. Ratzenberger, incidentally, a long-time Japanese racer. He's been racing Formula 3000 and sports cars for Toyota here, but he's driving for Vern Schuppen's Japanese Porsche team this weekend in the Team Schuppen 962C, a special car with carbon fiber chassis. We saw the cars at Le Mans this year.
Und das geht alles im 3. Gang und ist von der Geschwindigkeit her
5th gear,
zu Medium Speed.
4th gear, and back down towards the start straight. Across the start-finish line, heading up towards 300 kilometers an hour. And new this weekend is Toyota, the return of Toyota. They've missed the 1991 World Championship to develop this car, the impressive and stunning-looking 92C. Now, if you see any similarity between this car and Jaguar's XJR14, it's because it was designed by the same man, Tony Southgate. Number 36, the number that Toyota has carried over the past few years in all its racing. It raced in the World Championship 3 or 4 years. But they've missed this year to concentrate on developing this V10-powered, 3.5-litre normally aspirated car, which this weekend Jeff Lees and Andy Wallace of Great Britain are both driving. Jan Lammers, the Flying Dutchman, has been out here helping develop it. He's not driving it this weekend. It's down to the 2 Britons to drive, Andy Wallace and Jeff Lees. Andy Wallace, of course, who won Le Mans for Jaguar in 1987. Wallace on the left, Lees in the centre. Lees also very much a Japophile. He's been living here for some years, racing and working here. Let's talk to Beaky Sims, team manager for Toyota GB.
Obviously, the next step is always Formula One from this class. I mean, the basis is laid down for that. But before that, we have to get successful in this Formula first.
How is now your first experience with the car on the racetrack here in Autopolis?
It's the second time here in Autopolis. The last time here 3 weeks ago was in the wet, 2 days solid rain. So we only had experience of Autopolis in rain conditions. So these last 2 days have been pretty hard work to try and balance the car in the dry conditions.
Are you satisfied with the results up to now and the training is finished?
We're fairly happy, but we'd like to been a little bit farther up because right in the last 20 minutes on the qualifying rubber, we had a brake problem, which probably a second or a second and a half off what we should have ended up with. But first time, first official practice, 5th quickest, that's not bad.
As you heard Dave Sims say, 5th quickest, and it wasn't bad indeed. A very attractive looking car, very purposeful. Fastest there in the hands of Jeff Lees, who knows Autopolis as well as anyone here this weekend. Passing one of the Peugeots there. And what an impressive facility this is. Universally praised by all the drivers, all the team managers, 46 garages built here. And by the media, by the world's media, who are here in vast numbers to see the first World Series race at this new track. Toyota looking for a good home result today. Nissan, of course, missing from the championship this year. And Nissan, in fact, will be missing for one more year. They're deciding whether or not to contest in 1993. But Toyota are back in force, and Mazda, we are told, are coming back next year as well. Mercedes, what a poor season Mercedes have had up to now. They've had awful problems with engines. They've had 2 second places, but no wins this year. They used the C11 turbo car until Le Mans. They raced that at Le Mans. In fact, they led Le Mans until the 21st hour. Since then, they've concentrated on this car, the C291, which is their flat 12 3.5 litre sports car, and they've had engine problem after engine problem, and they haven't finished a race since Le Mans. And again, we've got problems. There's a number 2 car of Michael Schumacher, which has had more engine problems. And during qualifying, number 2 gets through 3 engines. Despite that, Michael Schumacher was the fastest of the Mercedes drivers. Michael Schumacher, who is now one of the most sought-after men in motor racing. Just 22 years old, a former German Formula 3 champion, well, last year, in fact. Jean-Louis Schlesser there has had an engine failure, and he's talking there to Peter Sauber and Walter Mayer of Sauber Mercedes. Michael Schumacher there looking a little worried at the screens. Time slipping away, and they'd like to get pole position. Number 6 there. It's the Keke Rosberg, a Yannick Dalmas Peugeot. Chasing after pole position. Dalmas is doing the work today. This is the car that's won the last 2 races, one at Manicure and one in Mexico. Goes on to the Fisa Way Bridge to check the weight, to make sure the car meets the 750 kilogram limit. Not the limit, I should say minimum limit. Maribaldi there going out in the other car, the number 5 car. Again distinctive by those red bands on the windscreen. The number 6 car by the yellow bands. Sean Todd, Supremo of Peugeot Talbot Sport, checking his charges. Can they make it 3 in a row? Now here's the man who is hoping to get a crack at the championship today, Derek Warwick. He's second at the moment to his teammate Theo Fabi. If Warwick can win and Fabi finishes below 5th place, then he has a chance of grabbing that Drivers' Championship. Jaguar won the Teams Championship at Mexico City. We saw 3-4 weeks ago in the wet, trying very hard. We saw him locking up a moment ago. Theo Fabi in the number 4 Jaguar. He's the man who's leading, the Italian. Trying just as hard as Warwick for pole position, and in fact, he does get pole position. Fabi takes that pole position with a 1 minute 27.188 lap. Pole position for Jaguar at the final race of the year. Peugeot, the Yannick Dalmas car, lining up second. Peugeot lining up third. And the number 4 Jaguar of Derek Warwick in 4th place. There we see confirmation of it. The current standings.
It's a big battle between you and Derek now for the championship. How is your preview with this?
Well, I want to win the championship, and I would like to win the race too, but I think in between the two I prefer the championship and win the race at Derek.
Derek, is there a competition between 2 teams, the Jaguar team of Theo Fabi and the Jaguar team of Derek Warwick?
Absolutely not. You know, our information is pulled every single time we have a debrief. It's made no difference this weekend. Tio's told me everything, and the information goes the other way. Out on the track tomorrow, it's obviously a different story because I also want to be world champion. I have to win the race. The worst possible situation has come for me, and that is that Tio's on the pole and I'm fourth quickest. And that's exactly what I didn't want, because I have cars to overtake, and Tio is out presumably in the lead. So tomorrow's a tough job for us. I personally would like rain. I've been told that the rain is coming. But anyway, we will see tomorrow night.
Welcome back to Autopolis, a very, very foggy Autopolis here on Sunday morning. Just look at that weather. High up here in the mountains, the cloud is not lifting. And although the typhoon has veered off, there's not a lot of racing at the moment. The warm-up is delayed for 2.5 hours, and the timekeepers at the moment are spending their time simulating the race. Or doing other things. This is what Olivetti do when they're off duty. But eventually it clears, and there is going to be a start. There's a 1.5 hour delay, but they've been given the go-ahead. The circuit is clear enough now, and there on pole position is Teo Fabi's Jaguar. He's showing of David Brabham. Teo Fabi, 36 years old. Italian, David Brabham, 26 years old. Australian, number 6 car there, Yannick Dalmas. Dalmas is 30 years old. Maribaldi starting the number 5 Peugeot there. Maribaldi, he's still reigning world champion with Jean-Louis Schlesser, 37 years old. Derek Warwick there, 4th fastest. And the second of the Silk Cut Jaguars. Now Warwick is planning to drive the whole race by himself. Will he be able to make it? A very, very hard race, 430 kilometers and 93 laps of this tortuous, demanding circuit. There is Japan's pride, number 36 Toyota. Andy Wallace there at the helm. Michael Schumacher talking to Carl Wendlinger. Schumacher's going to start the Mercedes, the number 2 Mercedes. And a huge crowd, 38,000 spectators, have trekked up the mountain to come and see the start of this final and 8th round of the World Sportscar Championship. Jean-Louis Schlesser there, showing of Jochen Mass in the number 1 Mercedes. Schlesser, 43 years old, Mass, 45 years old, probably one of the oldest crews racing today. And there's confirmation of the driver's points, Fabi, Warwick, Alio, Baldi. Just those 4 in contention for the title today. Mazda, who won Le Mans 24 hours this year, proudly showing off both their ladies and their neat little 787B. There's the grid all lined up. Japanese music heralds the start of the race. Please clear the grid, they're saying. Crews, officials running off. Number 4 Jaguar there, pride of place on the front row of the grid for the first ever international race here at Autopolis. Motor racing crazy, Japan still is. As we saw at the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka 2 weeks ago. Marcel Martin, the Fiesta starter, waves the green flag to send the cars off on their warm-up lap. And a problem there for number 5 for Maribaldi. Hesitates a little at the start. Toyota pace car leading the pack on this warm-up lap of the circuit. An enormous amount of space on the start straight, something they've learned from past experiences, not just here in Japan, but elsewhere, particularly Austria, that a narrow start line can lead to disaster. So this circuit has been designed wide with lots of safety features. You can see them there, walls well back, lots of gravel areas. Here in the Iso Kyushu National Park, one of Japan's most famous national parks, but a long, long way from Tokyo, 600 miles to the southwest. Norbert Haug of Mercedes on your right, Jochen Neerpasch on the left, looking very anxiously. They have to finish a race. And the race is on, and straight into the lead, past Fabi, goes Yannick Dalmas. He pushes that number 6 Peugeot straight through. Fabi, who took pole position, has lost his lead position, and number 2 Schumacher, what a jump he's made right from the third row of the grid straight up into third place. Carved viciously inside Warwick. Derek Warwick there in the number 3 Silk Cut Jaguar. As the field streams out on this still rather foggy afternoon high in the Japanese mountains. Peugeot, Jaguar, Mercedes, Jaguar, and Mercedes again. Schlesser's that jumped the other Peugeot as well. Baldi fell back a little. We saw him hesitate, and I don't believe he's able to take up his grid position again. Michael Schumacher, one of the most wanted men in racing, driving for Jordan earlier this year, and now firmly with Benetton. Benetton, of course, sponsored by this circuit, Autopolis. Yannick Dalmas, Theo Fabi, Michael Schumacher. The three of them breaking away rather quickly there. Derek Warwick's dropping back just a little. Maybe he's waiting for something to happen. You can see how steep this circuit is, the climbs and rises. Up the hill they go. As we said earlier, this circuit's rather protected by its height from the bad weather. The typhoon that's veered off did hit Suzuka further down on mainland Japan, and the Formula 3000 race there, which was due to take place today as well, was completely washed out, hasn't taken place. After the first lap, there is the order. 3 factory teams there filling the top 6 places as expected, with Cor Oyser in the Euro Racing Spice just outside the top 6. 4th lap, and Dalmas is pushing even further away. These Peugeots are going beautifully in this part of the season. 2 consecutive victories, and there's a problem for number 61. That's the Wayne Taylor Euro Racing Spice, the second Spice of IMSA racing driver Wayne Taylor from South Africa. Taylor, who drives the Intrepid in IMSA racing to some very good effect this year. He's come a long way from his Florida home to drive here, and the car is out already after just 4 laps. 7th place there now, having passed the other Spice, is Jeff Lees in the number 36 Toyota there. He's now pushing Schlesser, pushing Jean-Louis Schlesser quite hard. We can't tell if it's Lees or Andy Wallace from here. Theo Fabi still second, but he's got Schumacher very, very close to him now. Derek Warwick still holding a watching brief behind the Peugeot. Catching back markers already. Warwick closing right up, and there's a spin there. There's a spin for the Toyota. Jeff Lees, and we see it again in slow motion. He's having a go there at Schlesser. He nearly hits Schlesser, nearly collects him. The Tony Southgate car spins round, design car spins around, comes into the pits. He's going to have a check on everything, make sure everything's all right. There's quite a low speed spin going into that chicane. They're just checking the handling, make sure nothing's damaged. They've nothing to lose. This is very much a test for them, as you heard Dave Sims saying earlier. Fresh tyres go onto the Toyota. Meanwhile, lap 11, and Yannick Dalmas still out front from Theo Fabi, from Michael Schumacher. Those 3 cars pushing very, very hard indeed, lapping back markers. There they're coming up to pass the Mazda. Maurizio Sandro Sala, the Brazilian driver, one of Ayrton Senna's protégés, in that little Mazda car running in the same colours in which it won the Le Mans 24 Hours this year. Became the first Japanese manufacturer to conquer the Everest, which is Le Mans. But at the moment, the race is all Yannick Dalmas's, and it's looking just like Manicure and just like Mexico City all over again. Peugeot have come on so strong since they developed the Evolution car after Le Mans and raced it first at Nürburgring. Problems at Nürburgring, but ever since then, they've been going well. And Sala has a spin there. He's spun off the circuit. It's David Kennedy, not Sala. It's the other of the charged renowned Mazdas. David Kennedy, quick spin there in the S's. 17th lap. But Dalmas isn't pulling away from Fabi. Fabi is still right there. Coming up behind Oscar Larra's Brun Judd. That V8 Judd-powered car that we've seen racing, still being developed and ready for next year. Larrari not giving any quarter at all there to Dalmas. Despite the fact he's about to be lapped, he's making it very, very hard for the Frenchman to pass him. Oscar Larrari, Argentinian, been racing with Brun Motorsport for years and years. Finally lets him by, or he's passed, tucks in behind him. 37 years old, a former European Formula 3 champion. That was back in 1982. It's been one of the mainstays of sports car racing ever since. And Theo Fabi being given a very, very hard time by Michael Schumacher there. Still holding second place, but the Italian in the Silk Cut Jaguar is having to fight a rearguard action now. It's only a matter of time, I think, before Schumacher's going to get by him. Definitely the Mercedes on song today. Very, very hard. Despite those engine problems, Schumacher is pushing. There's no point in going racing if you're going to hang back. It's all or nothing. Mercedes still considering their motorsport future. There's going to be a board meeting in the next few weeks to decide whether or not they continue next year. Lap 21, and Schumacher makes his move, and he goes around the outside, the long way round, outside Theo Fabi. Michael Schumacher takes that Mercedes into second place. What a beautiful piece of driving. What a talented man this young German, 22 years old, is. We see it again in slow motion. Right round the long way, the outside in the first corner after the pit straight. And you can see behind Derek Warwick is closing on Theo Fabi as well. But out front is Yannick Dalmas. Where is Yannick Dalmas? There he is. Dalmas is climbing out of the car. Jean Todt anxiously looking at the screen. What has happened to that number 6 Peugeot? Lap 21, and the Peugeot has blown an engine. What a disaster for Yannick Dalmas and Keke Rosberg, who hasn't yet driven the car. They were going for a hat-trick of wins today. They are not going to get it, but one Peugeot is still running, and it looks like it's running very strongly indeed. This puts Michael Schumacher, this man, in the lead of the Autopolis 430-kilometer race. And after 22 laps, from Fabi and Warwick for Jaguar. Please rejoin us after the break to see what happens.
World Sportscar Racing 91. That's racing with the fastest sports cars in the world. World Sportscar Racing 91. That is fascination, drama, and high-tech. World Sportscar Racing 91 is now available in bookshops throughout Europe or by calling this number. World Sportscar Racing 91, the superb Eurosport English language yearbook of sports car racing.
Welcome back to Autopolis Japan, where we are just over one quarter of the way through the 8th and final round of the 1991 FIA World Sportscar Championship, where Michael Schumacher in Mercedes is leading those two cars. Theo Fabi in the number 4 Silk Cut Jaguar, and behind him Derek Warwick in the number 3 car. As into the pits in your bottom corner comes one of the Mazdas. Which one it is we can't quite see at the moment. Two Mazdas racing today, Maurizio Sandro Sala and Toshio Yorino on the track at the moment. There's Michael Schumacher, lap 28 of 93 laps, pushing that Mercedes further and further ahead of the field. Theo Fabi coming in for his first pit stop. A routine stop. Tyres are ready. Let's hope there's no repeat of those problems Jaguar had in Mexico, where the starter motor jammed when Derek Warwick made a late stop. Fabi's staying in the car. Out he goes again. David Brabham is waiting in the wings to take over. He'll take over at probably 2/3 distance. Fabi pushes on in the number 4 Jaguar. Probably the last race for Silk Cut. We've seen them for several years now racing with Jaguar, but the sponsorship's due to come to an end, and there's rumours that next year Jaguar may be linked with Budweiser, the sponsors they have in IMSA racing in the United States. In comes Schumacher. He's handing over to Karl Wendlinger, very athletic young 22-year-old Z's, leaping in and out of the cars. Mercedes obviously worried about these cars. They've lost so many engines in qualifying, and in fact this morning in the warm-up, Jean-Louis Schlesser in the number 1 car lost his engine, and only because of the fog delaying the race was Mercedes able to get his car back into the race after changing an engine. But no such problems for the number 2 car today. Out goes Karl Wendlinger, the man who's just signed for Leighton House in Formula 1, had his first race at Suzuka, not far away from here, 2 weeks ago. As was rather publicly seen, was involved in a second lap multiple accident at the chicane, and his first race for Leighton House ended rather abruptly. There are the current standings after 30 laps. Jaguar in the lead at the moment, but only because of those pit stops. Derek Warwick driving solo ahead of the 2 Peugeots. They've yet to stop. So Mercedes and one of the Jaguars, the number 4 Jaguar, have stopped. But this man, Derek Warwick, making his bid for the 1991 World Drivers' Championship, out front at the moment. In comes Warwick. Driving solo means his pit stops may be a little bit quicker because he hasn't got to worry about changing drivers. In comes the number 5 car, Maribaldi. In comes the number 1 Mercedes, Jean-Louis Schlesser, handing over to Jochen Mass. And in comes the number 5 car. Sorry, we saw 5 going out. Now, has he changed? Has Baldi and Philippe Alliot changed places? It looks like they have. Yes, Philippe Alliot's in the car. So the only one of the leading front runners we haven't seen yet is this car, and there is Schlesser. He's staying in the car, but there's a problem. They're fiddling around inside. Now, what is the problem? Out he goes. Schlesser still in the car, and he comes out just as Karl Wendlinger passes him.
Man muss sagen, wir haben das ganze Wochenende ziemlich arg.
We asked Michael Schumacher how it's going. He says, we're very pleased with progress. He said, I was suddenly found myself in the lead after the Peugeot blew up, and at the moment everything's going right. It feels fantastic. The car is good, and look how good it looks. He's back in the lead now. Karl Wendlinger, number 2 Mercedes. Derek Warwick still in second place. In the number 3 Silk Cut Jaguar there, Theo Fabi 3rd, and the sole remaining Peugeot in 4th. There is the Konrad Motorsport Lamborghini, which Stefan Johansson started today. Retired, engine problems, we believe. Number 5 Peugeot in for a pit stop. Looks like a routine one, little bit of work at the back there, but obviously no problems. Starts all right, out he goes, still in 4th place. That's the number 5 car. Some adjustment to the back, making that quick second stop. In comes the Toyota. We saw him spinning earlier, remember, and made a tyre change. This is their routine stop. This is the Toyota team, Tom's operation, half Japanese, half English, under team manager Beaky Sims, Dave Beaky Sims. Veteran of Formula 1 racing, and together with Glenn Walters running Toyota's program the last 2 years in the World Championship. Driver change there to Andy Wallace, out goes Wallace. Robert Hauger Mercedes anxiously looking at those screens. Perhaps just the thought creeping across his mind that maybe Mercedes can pull it off today. They've had a very lean year this year. But at the moment, Schumacher's been able to ease the pace a little. After 40 laps, he's 20 seconds ahead of Derek Warwick and 28 seconds ahead of Theo Fabi. With Carl Wendlinger driving at the moment. Derek Warwick comes through. And there is the Dutch car, the Dutch Euro Racing car of Cor Oyser and Charles Volsman. The Spice, Volsman now driving. Good season for this privateer team. They're going to be racing Lolas next year. The team's bought a pair of Lolas, 3 Lolas they've bought, and going to be racing 2 of them. 1 as a spare. Some good 4th places this year, and of course 3rd in Mexico when the rain upset the whole race. Charles Volsman pushing that Spice very hard. The car's still in the charge of the Spice factory. They're doing development work on it. There we see a rather unwell Porsche, one of the Kramer Porsches. It's the number 11 car of Reuter, Manuel Reuter and Harry Toivonen, not looking at all well. A lot of smoke coming out, maybe a blown turbo. Big queue there. Some of the Japanese Porsches, that are Japanese team Porsches, which are racing here today, holding up the Toyota there, and race leader Carl Wendlinger. Wendlinger coming up to lap the Toyota. Both go safely by. Now he's got to pass the Toyota. But Andy Wallace is driving that Japanese car beautifully. Got running lights on to warn the slower cars. It's only going to be a question of a few hundred meters before the Mercedes by. There it is. No, thinks twice about it. Andy Wallace, the British driver from Oxford, who achieved such glory when he won Le Mans, together with Jan Lammers and Johnny Dumfries back in '87. I should correct myself, say 88, I think, 1988. And there's the Kramer Porsche in the pits you saw in the bottom corner. Looks like a blown turbo. "55 laps gone, 55 laps of 93 laps. Still very foggy here, just above the track, but there's enough light for everyone to see. The only worry at the moment is because the race started 1.5 hours late, that it might be getting a bit dark by the time they get to the end. And finally, at the chicane, Carl Wendlinger goes through on the inside of Andy Wallace. Mercedes still anxiously looking at those screens. There's Peter Sauber with his French beret on. A German Swiss, so why he's wearing a French beret, we never will know. It's been a long time since we've had the pleasure of seeing Max Welty of Formula Sauber Mercedes kissing Peter Sauber's bald pate after a win. It hasn't happened once this year, and of course Welty's been long gone. He joined Porsche. Here we see that move again by Wendlinger going inside. Andy Wallace at the chicane, very nice piece of driving. Wendlinger and Schumacher are so professional in their driving, both former kartists, both Formula 3 racers. Peter Sauber talking to Schumacher. I was saying about Max Welty, who joined Porsche for their Formula 1 program, which Porsche have now abandoned, and we're waiting to see if Max Welty will return to Mercedes for next year. A great combination, and here we are waiting for the number 2 car to come in. Michael Schumacher getting ready to take the C291 flat 12 3.5 litre Silver Arrow, and there's a mouthful. Take it over from this man who's just getting out, Carl Wendlinger. Wendlinger out, Schumacher in. Quick bit of fettling, clean the screen. A full fuel load, tires changed. Car's lowered off its air jacks. And out it goes. Another beautiful stop by Mercedes. They've got some time in hand now. They have a fairly healthy lead at this moment. Jaguar, David Brabham getting into that Jaguar, getting in through that tiny hole which is called the door. Theo Farby handing over that car in third place at the moment, handing over to David Brabham. David Brabham, the man who's made such an impact in world sports car racing this year. After an unhappy year racing for Brabham, for his the old family firm, he joined Nissan for the Spa 24 Hours. He won it. He then went to Nürburgring for Jaguar, and he finished first and second, driving for the Silk Cut team. David Brabham at the wheel of the number 3 Jaguar, which at the moment, because of the pit stops, has moved up into first place. In he comes. Derek Warwick. Warwick stays in the car. Very sterling effort this, possibly 2.5 hours of racing. Very fit man, our Derek. Also very hard charge, as we saw in Mexico. A most beautiful drive there, which even a spin couldn't detract from. Perfect performance today so far by Derek. And Jaguar making sure there's going to be no problems with that starter motor. I'm sure there's a lot of work done on those starter motors back at their Oxford base, in between the cars being transported from Mexico to Japan. Routine stop there for Jaguar by the Tom Walkinshaw racing team. Tom Walkinshaw, as we said earlier, linked to this circuit Autopolis through his control of the Benetton racing team, which is sponsored by Autopolis Circuit. Silk Cut Jaguar back out into the race. Warwick having lost that lead. But this man having no problems with his lead at the moment. 29 laps to go. Michael Schumacher in Mercedes leading this man, Derek Warwick. Welcome back to Autopolis Japan in the closing stages of the final race of the World Sportscar Championship year. The end of 10 years of Group C racing. Not the end of Group C racing, but the end of the first decade, which started in 1982, as we see Andy Wallace bringing in the new Toyota, the 92C, designed by former Jaguar man Tony Southgate, also of course former BRM man. And there's another interesting story where BRM this weekend have been showing their new Challenger, their World Sports Car Challenger for 1992, which will be sponsored by Hydro Aluminium next year. Let's talk to Karl Wendlinger. Is he worried about the engines? He said no, it's going okay at the moment. Everything seems to be normal. All our pressures, temperatures, sensors are telling us the engine is good. Yes, of course we're worried about any problems with it, because it has been a difficult few races. But at the moment, we're looking forward to going ahead and possibly winning this race. We're starting to think of victory now. There comes a stage when you can sense it. 22 years old, Karl Wendlinger, Austrian of course, not German like his teammate. And there's the rain tires just in case, and Peter Sauber's saying, slow it down, Michael, slow it down a little, no hurry now. Got a good lead. They've opened the lead out to something like 28 seconds. Theo Farby wondering if Derek Warwick is going to do him out of his World Championship title. There is some damp there, but it's the fog rather than the rain that's causing this dampness on the track. David Brabham there doing a super job. Theo Farby, as I say, a little concerned, but he's driven enough with David this year to know that Brabham is a man who can be trusted 110%. David Brabham, number 4, Silk Cut Jaguar, in third place at the moment. Son of Sir Jack Brabham, the twice World Formula One champion in the 50s and 60s. Brother of IMSA champion Jeff. Jeff's just been crowned IMSA champion for the 3rd time. And brother also of Gary Brabham, who races in International Formula 3000. 6 laps to go. And this man, Michael Schumacher, heading for Mercedes' first victory of 1991. If anything, compounding his value as a racing driver, because all the Formula One teams want this man, but at the moment it's Tom Walkinshaw who's got him in the Benetton team. So the ironic situation here is that the Tom Walkinshaw Formula One driver is chasing Tom Walkinshaw sports car driver here for victory at Autopolis. Mercedes getting very, very anxious now. If that engine can just last 5 laps with their boys, they're saying 2 laps now, 2 laps to go. And Schumacher has done exactly what Peter Sauber told him. He has backed off. He is letting Brabham lead him around the circuit. There's no hurry. Brabham is at the moment 1 lap down. Well, he would be 1 lap down if he passed him, and it's a final lap. And a famous victory here in Autopolis is on the cards now for Mercedes. If that engine can just last these last few corners, then Michael Schumacher, Karl Wendlinger and Mercedes are home and dry, if a little bit misty. Brabham just preventing the Mercedes from lapping him. He's going to finish on the same lap, as is Derek Warwick, who's in 2nd place. Michael Schumacher almost home, just down the hill, through the S's, and back onto the start straight. And for the first time in the 8 races of 1991, Mercedes will be first. Superb performance by Mercedes. They've come out of the doldrums. They've had a terrible time the last few races. He makes an effort at Brabham there, but a little bit pointless at this stage. Let David Brabham stay on the same lap and look after that Mercedes. Don't do anything that could jeopardize the Mercedes on this last lap. Down the start straight, checkered flag, and Mercedes have won at Autopolis Japan. Final race of the year. And of course, it's the final race of the year that everybody remembers. Karl Wendlinger being congratulated by all the team. Jochen Neerpasch there, Mercedes Motorsport Director, one of the first to offer his congratulations. And what a happy team. Some of the team actually reduced to tears. Look at that. Peter Sauber congratulates Karl Wendlinger as Michael Schumacher makes his slowing down lap. Derek Warwick comes home in 2nd place. A beautiful drive. Apparently, the only problem he reported to his pits over the radio was slight cramp in one of his legs. But what a fit man he is. And Michael Schumacher absolutely delighted with this victory, flashing his lights at these just as enthusiastic Japanese marshals. Peter Sauber in tears. Look at that. They've done it. It's been a very, very hard year. They got so close to winning Le Mans, only to have problems and Mazda take victory from them there, but here they've done it. They've got their own back. They're in Japan. They've showed Mazda the way around Autopolis. And there's confirmation of the results, 93 laps. Everybody except those 2 Jaguars lap. Peugeot 4th, a very lackluster race there, but we saw a couple of problems in out of the pits. Jean-Louis Schlesser, Jochen Mass, 5th place, and the Toyota home in 6th. What a good start for Toyota. Rest of the field there, 12 other cars finish. The rest of the 22 starters are not classified. Theo Fabi, world champion. He's just done it. Warwick would have had to win, but Fabi comes home in as world champion, 86 points, 7 points ahead of Derek Warwick. Alio and Baldi still with their 69 points. And there is Michael Schumacher. What a happy guy. Gunter Schaefer asking Michael, he said, you know, was the race as easy as it looked? He said it was quite easy, but we were just worried, obviously, the whole time. We'd lost a number of engines in qualifying. We were worried that the engine might go again. Very pleased indeed. And, you know, Carl and I think we did a good job for Mercedes. And we're really pleased it's the last race of the year that we've won, because that is the race that people think of when the season starts next year. Got the whole winter to think about it. No problems, he's saying. He said, been an absolutely trouble-free race for us. Routine stops, routine refueling, routine tyre changes, routine driver changes. What more can you say? Pleased, obviously, that Peugeot didn't beat them this time, but even more pleased to have beaten Jaguar. Let Jaguar get on with the World Championship. He said, you know, we've had a good race today. And so ends the year with a very high note. Jaguar having won the World Teams Championship already, and now They've beaten Peugeot to the driver's title as well, unlike German Touring Car Championship. It's the Teams Championship that means the more in World Sports Car Racing. Jaguar have won that for the third year, and they've now put Theo Fabi, their Italian driver, on the podium as World Drivers' Champion, another one for the record books. Norbert Haug of Mercedes is asked about the victory, and he said, we're very, very pleased. It's something we've been working very hard for. It shows that the new engine, the flat 12 engine, can work, it can run, and it can win races.
Wann haben Sie denn gewusst, jetzt klappt's?
Ab der 93. Runde.
Norbert Haug, who's the chairman of the Motorsport Committee, which Mercedes run. There's three of them. There's Jochen Neerpasch, Norbert Haug, and Dr. Hermann Herif. And the three of those people take all the decisions and report to the Mercedes board. Their main problem now is going to be next year, will Mercedes return to Group C racing, or are they going to go to Formula One? And look at that, such happiness in the Mercedes pits. There's the team's final scores. Jaguar had already won, but they've gone even further ahead now after their second and third places here ahead of Peugeot. Dr. Hermann Herif, who's chief engineer of Mercedes, we asked him, will this win make any difference to your future? He said, no, at the moment it's a very good win for us, but I don't think it'll make a lot of difference in our future decisions. That's down to the Mercedes board. They'll be meeting in the next few weeks, and we're obviously hoping we can continue sports car racing, but they may decide otherwise. And so the season ends on a very high note for Mercedes. Happiness unbounded there.
Did you expect to be the winner here?
Well, at the beginning of the season, I knew Derek was, very difficult very hard to beat. But he had some bad luck, and I had my portion of bad luck too. But maybe it was a little bit less than one Derek had.
Derek, the situation was that you should win the race, and then you could be champion. And you was in front before Theo Fabi was in front of all the cars except the Mercedes. And it was this race, exactly this race, where the only victory of the year went to Mercedes. I think you must be very disappointed about this, isn't it?
Well, obviously disappointed, but really winning the race would not have won me the World Championship with Theo in third place. Theo had to finish fourth, and that was not going to be possible today. So whether the Mercedes won or not, Theo would have still been world champion. I think as far as I'm concerned, other than Silverstone, where I lost 20 points, my race was really lost, or the championship was lost in Mexico, when the car didn't start in the pit lane, because for sure I would have finished second place there, and that would have been enough for me to be world champion today.
Derek Warwick may be a little bit disappointed, but he's seen his team winning both the championships. Please join us on Tuesday, November the 19th. The championship may be finished, but we have our season review of the World Sports Car Championship Tuesday, November the 19th here on Eurosport. Please join us then.